I'd like to welcome Nabil Aladdin, the president of the Ohio State University Muslim Student Association, to lead us in prayer.
Anyone or anything that seeks to harm. May you bring us all closer to each other as one community. We ask that you unite us, and you make our diversity a source of strength, empathy, and compassion as we continue to rise as a great city in this great nation of ours. On this evening, we ask you, Lord, to strengthen our leaders, to inspire their hearts, and to increase their resolve to do right by all. Dear Lord, help this council be the leaders that we need during these crossroads in our history. Help them be inspiring and empathetic, wise and strong. Leaders that will help us stay together as one community in the face of adversity. That will help us grow and thrive and guide this city to new heights. Leaders that will protect our civil liberties and our freedoms. That will support our families and our institutions. That will empower the weak and aid the disenfranchised. That they be a voice for those who are voiceless and a source of hope for those who are hopeless. And as they strive to care for and protect us, we pray that you, O Almighty, care for and protect them and their loved ones. Almighty Lord, help our brothers and sisters in humanity that are suffering in this country, in Syria, and in many countries around the world. We ask that you alleviate their pain and allay their fears. Comfort them and protect them in the face of suffering and despair. Enable us to help them and make us instruments of comfort and healing in their lives and the lives of innocent victims of violence everywhere. Almighty God, the challenges we face today are great, but you are greater. We ask that you keep our hearts strong so that we never despair. That you keep our bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood strong so that they never break. Make us catalysts of good to anyone and everyone, and allow us to be the change that we want to see in the world around us.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Aladdin. Thanks for coming down to council. Can you also check to make sure the mic's on down there?
Yes. Yeah, you need.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
This week's communications received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda that will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you, clerk. Before we present resolutions from members of council, I'd just like to update the public on a press conference that the mayor and I had in conjunction with my fellow members of council regarding the mayor's issuance of an executive order outlining current Columbus policies as it relates to President Trump's executive orders issued out of Washington, D.C. over the past 96 hours. It was following Mayor Ginther's executive order outlining our current policies. I also announced that the City of Columbus will be doing research and holding a hearing on, one, what it means to be a sanctuary city, two, whether Columbus should be a sanctuary city, and three, how we can continue to improve the policies that are outlined in the executive order to make sure that Columbus is doing its best in playing its role to be the welcoming, inclusive place that it must be and will be under the leadership of this council. So I think it's important for the general public to know here in chambers, as well as watching on our government access channel, that we'll be looking for community input so that we can make sure that Columbus is welcoming, that our policies are aligned with the American values that we stand for, and that we'll be doing the right thing to make sure we protect everyone, regardless of where they come from or where they live. Councilmember Elizabeth Brown.
Thank you, President Klein. I would like to offer a resolution from the floor tonight to express Council's opposition to the executive orders that President Trump issued last week. I'd like to introduce Resolution 0032X-2017 to recognize the importance of refugee and immigrant communities in the city of Columbus. The city of Columbus is a welcoming city. In Columbus, we embrace all our residents, including our immigrant and refugee brothers and sisters who make an enormous contribution to our community. We are proud to live in our diverse city inside a diverse nation built on a tradition of immigrants. What's more, it is an international human right to seek protection in another country. Yet this past week, President Donald Trump signed 3 executive orders that violate this right and that violate the values of our city. By undermining basic due process protections and imperiling millions of refugees and immigrants who are seeking safety and asylum, these orders simply will tear apart families. The demonization of immigrants throws them into the shadows and creates a class of silent victims. But when we enable immigrants to live safely and outside the shadows, we increase both the public good and the public safety. The characterization of refugees as threats to our safety undermines our long-term security. But when we offer asylum inside our borders, we build a safer global community and strengthen the world's understanding of democracy. Our message to our refugee and immigrant communities is that we see you and hear your stories, and we value your lives. By keeping families together, no matter their race, creed, or origin, we live out the values of a democratic nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus that this council reaffirms the importance of refugee and immigrant communities in the City of Columbus and recommits our city as open, welcoming, and encouraging of resettlement efforts. I move for adoption.
Second.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up for comments from my colleagues, and while we take comments, invite Leo Alameda to the podium. Leo is a board member of Community Refugee and Immigrant Services and is going to provide an update for us. I'd like to take comments first.
Thank you, Councilman Brown, and I'm certainly in support of the resolution. And I just want to say that this is the beginning of my 10th year on Columbus City Council. And of course, we haven't passed our budget yet for 2017. But since I've been on council, we have given $1,018,252 to the Community Refugee and Immigration Services to support showing the importance of this organization in terms of making sure that individuals who come to this country, helping them with resettlement, certainly legal services, looking at when you have secondary immigrants coming to this community, to be there to be able to help them. Also in reference to being helping refugee families to be reunified with relatives that have left in their country of origin. So this body and the mayor, the former Mayor Coleman and certainly Mayor Ginther, have certainly been supportive of providing dollars to this nonprofit organization in support of immigrants and refugees. And it is also in the budget for the 2017 budget. And with the passage of the budget by my colleagues, there's dollars to support you also for 2017. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown, I appreciate and am grateful for your leadership in bringing forth this very important resolution, putting a stake in the ground of where the City of Columbus and the Council stands on these troublesome, un-American, un-Christian, and likely unconstitutional executive orders by the current president. I think it's important to know that not only do these executive orders strike at the heart of the fundamentals of American beliefs, It also undermines safety, separates families, and really pits people against one another. And equally as important, it strikes at the heart of our fundamental values of humanity. Columbus policy should always continue to support a community where all residents and visitors feel safe and welcome, and appreciate the leadership that you've taken to draw that line, to know where we stand as we move forward and continuously work and modify our policies so that we are inclusive and welcoming. Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you for your leadership, President Klein. Leo, thank you so much for coming today. We have multiple agencies in Columbus that do excellent work to resettle our refugees and to support our immigrant and refugee communities. But Chris is one of those on the front lines, and you are a board member, and I'm so appreciative that you took time to come down here today and provide us an update of what these 72 hours have been like for the organization, for the families you serve, and for the families that you work with to help bring here now. I understand one family has been turned away. Could you provide an update?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming tonight. Angie Plumer. Is that a little bit better? Yeah. So Angie Plumer, our executive director, had planned to be here tonight to speak before you, and unfortunately she couldn't make it. She's actually on a conference call with a couple of other organizations across the country that do similar work in other cities. And so what we're really seeing is sort of a coming together of these organizations to try to figure out what exactly happens from here. But on behalf of her, on behalf of the board and the entire organization of the Community Refugee and Immigration Services, I bring thanks for your continued support. This resolution is certainly important to us. We're glad that you have voted to approve it and to carry on the message that you described as you were explaining the resolution. Chris works with hundreds of families in Columbus who are directly impacted by this executive order, which prevents families from reuniting after many years of going through a lengthy lawful process. What we're finding is that there's several families that are already here in Columbus who want their children, their moms, their dads, their grandparents to come and live with them. And unfortunately, those people are being are having to stay in refugee camps. They're having to stay in countries where they fear for their life on the minute, really. And as I think about what Chris does, it's really quite amazing. I've been on the board for about 2 years now and have done a couple of different volunteer opportunities through Chris. For example, I once taught a citizenship course for a group of Bhutanese who wanted to eventually become citizens. I also welcomed new refugee families at the airport just last week. And so those opportunities have been really amazing. But what I find is, especially my first couple months at Chris, was I don't even know everything that we do because we do so much. It seemed like every month I was learning a new service that we provide. And it's truly amazing to have this organization and others like it to do this service, because what we find, especially in Columbus and in Franklin County, is that there's a huge impact to having these individuals here. Refugees and immigrants tend to be very prideful of the work that they do, of what they own and who they are. So we see a lot of them become business leaders or business owners. We see a lot of them, when they work for an organization or for a company, go above and beyond and give 110% because they know that they represent not just them, but the other people who are waiting to come here. This executive order really flies in the face of what American values are and who America stands for. It's certainly not embodying the words that we have on the Statue of Liberty and not embodying the Constitution of our great country. We are very, very concerned that the pause in this by this executive order is going to be something that causes many more delays. The process for a refugee to go through is very strict. There's quite a lengthy legal process. There's a lot of security checks. There's health screenings. There's tons of things that they go through. And we're worried that for some of them who have started the process and could have been here next week are going to be delayed for months or even years and might have to even start that process over again. And as I'll share a personal story. So I'm a naturalized citizen. I was born in Brazil and moved here when I was 4 years old with my mom. And, we weren't fleeing for our lives. We weren't trying to escape any kind of prejudice or ridicule. We essentially were coming here because she thought I would have a better chance at education here. She was a school teacher in Brazil and didn't really like the school system there, thought that they were letting the kids down. So she decided we would move here and have a better chance at a better life here, right? And I'm so glad and so blessed that I was able to do that and to be able to live my American dream. And it's scary to think that because of where someone was born, they're not going to be allowed to have that chance. They're not going to be afforded that opportunity. I attended the march at the John Glenn Columbus International Airport yesterday afternoon, and there I witnessed a massive crowd really voicing their concerns for their refugee and immigrant neighbors. We marched for the fair treatment of those already here and for those who are praying that they can one day seek refuge here. One of my favorite chants from the march was, "No hate, no fear, all are welcome here." This is the message that Columbus needs to send because we know firsthand the positive impacts that refugees and immigrants have on our community. While we all reflect on what's going on in our nation and see this executive order handed down from the president and try to figure out how to move forward in our own city, we have to be that role model for the rest of the country. And I'm so proud that we are able to do that through the support of City Council and the mayor. And while we navigate this critical time and uncertainty, we certainly must remember the words of Martin Luther King Jr., "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." We must be the light and love that our country and the world needs to see. We have to unite as a community to drive out the hate caused by the fear, and if we are to truly embody the words of the Pledge of Allegiance and ensure that this indeed is a country of liberty and justice for all. Thank you.